to our.
It's officially 10 a.m. here on the West Coast. Hello, everyone. We've officially started. The pre-party is over. Now it's official.
We need the entry music again.
Yep.
Oh, there we go.
Raise your coffees, boys.
Yeah.
Away from my computer.
Cheers, Twitch.
All right, so I think the plan was for now to start off with the video, Josh.
Cool.
We'll just play the video, and we'll be keeping an eye on the chat. So if there's questions you guys have about the song or the video in general, please hit us up with it, and we'll try and keep notes and answer all of those questions whenever we're done watching the video. And then, we'll do just a general Q&A after we go over the music too.
All right, 5, 4, 3.
Both ways, but still suspended. The worst of each, reduced and blended. Still suspended. I was stuck between two worlds because I was not willing
What's up?
What's up? Fun fact, the outro was extended slightly per the video director's request.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, he was like, "This footage looks so good, but the song's not long enough. Can you just extend it a little bit?" All right. So somebody earlier asked a question about what the meaning of the video was, and I actually pulled up the original treatment that Matisse Arnell sent to us. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the synopsis is that this is his words. The video for Torn Between will draw you from the emotional state of holding on to something you hold dearly to, the chaotic and overwhelming state of mind you spiral into, going through anything and everything possible to hold on to what you love, what you think you can control, to the breaking point where acceptance is no longer an option. Instead, letting go, surrender, and sacrifice are the only doors open. And then after that basic thought, he pretty much detailed the entire video as you see it now. He had it just written out in story form, which I thought was pretty cool, because there's like just a tremendous amount of like planning and vision ahead. So when we came into that shoot and Shaped by Fire, which were both done by the same director, and they were done in back-to-back days, we just showed up and we already knew what we were in for, and he had the whole shot list, and we just went in there and did it. And just a quick side note, reading that felt like when you're in school, like in elementary school, and you have to like read for the class, and you know how to read, but you're just like terrified that you're gonna mess it up and get roasted.
Oh man,
Dude, the chat's going off on you right now.
I don't know what that feels like.
Is it really?
No, I'm just kidding.
especially me.
Especially
What I remember the most about that shoot was the water on the floor. They spray water on the floor to get the lights to kind of like bounce off of it and look epic. But there was like holes in the floor, so we would be like rocking out hard. And at one point, I went to do kind of like a stomp bass combo move, for the camera, and I just sent like a 3-foot wave of water all over Nick. Do you remember that, Nick?
Yeah, it was the whole shoot. We were talking earlier about how Shaped by Fire was shot the day before, and Torn Between was shot immediately the day afterwards, just for like the budget and the practicality of like the space and the crew and the equipment. But when we were recording Shaped by Fire, I was like, all right, I'm over these pyro shoots. Because wait, was it Shaped by Fire that you doused me, Josh?
I think it was Torn Between actually the second day, because there was a bigger hole on my side of the stage. Yeah. So there was a hole. Yeah. When I stomped my foot, it just sent water all over your guitar and you.
Yeah, well, so it was just interesting. Our first day was like very fire laden, just sweating, like feeling
moist.
The flames on our
definitely
yeah,
moist.
and the next day it was like a bit chillier and wetter. But another like practical thing that I think we all learned over the years with videos is that you got to keep on spraying the floor with water, because it creates a nice like reflection with the light. So it just makes the lighting and everything look more like cinematic and like it'll make it pop. So any music videos that you guys out there watch, you should see what the floor is looking like, and if it's a wet floor, they're working with a pro.
Another fun fact is that since the Torn Between video was shot on the second day, we all had a bangover from the previous day of shooting Shaped by Fire.
And if you're not aware, bangover is like when you haven't headbanged in a while, which we hadn't because we'd been recording. It's like the way your muscles and your spine just turn against you the first time you try doing something that unnatural. So all of us came in with our necks just super stiff and sweaty.
Yep.
Oh, someone here
videos
from
next time.
Yeah. Someone here from Finland was at the Nasturi show that we played in Helsinki. That was a good one. I think that might have been the show of the
Sandwich Punch.
Oh,
Sandwich Punch, yeah.
Dang.
I don't know if some of you guys have been following
Twitch
the
is
band
over.
for a really long time might know that we used to play a sandwich punching game, and at that venue in Helsinki, Phil had one of the most devastating sandwich punches of all time, and it happened to me, so I'll never forget it.
It looked like when Spartacus
so
on 300
That's right.
was like in the air and came down with a spear, but it was Phil coming down on Nick sandwich.
There's a really good question here for or just JDub_T. What happens to the gear after a rainy music video? Luckily, we weren't playing with cabs or anything like this, so there was water on the floor and like flames in the air for the other video. But you pretty much just take good care of it and make sure it doesn't get messed up. But for those videos, like say the Confined video that we shot in 2005, you go in there knowing and preparing that those instruments are going to be thrashed. So you get like, you work with your endorser to get a guitar that looks like yours, but that maybe isn't like, equipped with the same expensive electronics or, the same expensive hardware. And it's part of the video budget is just knowing that your gear is going to get, is going to be unusable really after it.
Yeah.
Let's see, so we have another one. Lady of Metal 89. Do you make all your videos in California? And I think we would never be opposed to playing or to shooting videos somewhere else if it was like for epic scenery or like a specific location. But I think that just where we live, in the San Diego area, Los Angeles is usually just where we end up. That's where the most spaces are, the most production rentals and crew and people who work for that sort of thing. So it's the most practical place for us all to be able to do something like that.
And for anybody who's been asking questions and we miss your question, sometimes it's just a lot going on in the feed and we just miss stuff. So we're not ignoring anybody.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody asked about our shows in Brazil in 2019. Those were some of my favorite shows ever. I think we hadn't been back in almost 10 years, so when we played, it was one of the loudest crowds I think we played for ever. We recorded some of it live, and the crowd mics of those shows are just insane.
For deciding what songs to do a video for, this one was kind of tough because I think we shot Shaped by Fire and Torn Between before the record came out, so we were just kind of guessing what we thought people would latch onto a little bit. Also, just what our favorites were in the band, and I think Torn Between was one of those ones where we felt like it just had like a little bit more. It wasn't like a full ballad or anything, but just was a little bit of a different sound compared to some of the other songs, especially vocally and stuff.
Yeah, that was a hard call to make because we were being very protective of the music. You didn't want to get too many opinions and share like the album, but yeah, at that point, I think we were looking at the greater picture of what was out there, and we had My Own Grave out, redefined, and then we knew Shaped by Fire was gonna be the next one, and that Torn Between was kind of like the wild card. Like if we would have waited to film that and choose another video, I'm curious what we have chosen. It seems like people really like The Wreckage or Undertow or something like that, and that's the kind of perspective you only get after you hear what your fans like really gravitate towards, and I don't know, what would you guys, I'm stoked on Torn Between, and I'm like totally down to, like, yeah, this is what we did, I'm stoked, but is there one that if you had a time machine, you'd be like, maybe we should have done one for this song?
Well, obviously, like we ended up. Oh, go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, I think The Wreckage would have been one that I would like to do or would have done, but who knows? Maybe we will.
Well, I think part of why we ended up doing Blinded in between the two videos we shot back to back were Shaped by Fire and Torn Between, but we ended up doing Blinded because the label hadn't really heard the whole record or had their feedback when we shot the first two videos, so they actually kind of interjected it in between, and we're like, hey, you guys really missed it by forgetting to do a video for Blinded. So we actually kind of like separated the two original videos by which I'm really glad about. It just meant we got one extra video on the record.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're so in the record and we recorded it ourselves and pretty much produced most of it ourselves, so you don't really have that outside perspective. Like, we loved Blinded and we knew it was going to be the first track, but I don't think that any of us, for whatever reason, had considered, oh, this should totally be a single. But once Nuclear Blast heard the record, they were like, duh, it needs to be a single.
Yeah. Like, oh, really?
Yeah, first song on the record.
That's right, because we shot five music videos before we even released the record. Talk about that.
5?
Well, yeah, if
I
you,
don't
if you
know.
start with My Own Grave,
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, Graves, Redefined, and then Blinded, Tore Between, and Shaped by Fire. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard that train
That's why
horn,
things seem
but,
so busy when we're touring.
That's the riff train coming through.
yeah, that's the riff train.
Just
Here's
left
a
the
question,
station.
I guess here's a question from North OG underscore. Just listen to Torn Between for the first time. So good. What are y'all's favorite bands and artists right now? I feel like that's like, to answer that question is a good segue to talk about just like our tour with that we're supposed to be on right now with Whitechapel and Shadow of Intent. You know, those bands are Whitechapel is obviously like kind of established and legendary in their genre, but if you guys haven't heard the latest Shadow of Intent record, it's called Melancholy. We are really excited to go on tour with our friends in Whitechapel and also Shadow of Intent. That record is one of like my favorite heavy records of last year, and luckily we've got those same bands lined up for a rescheduled shows for that same lineup next year. But if you're looking for way sick, like extreme-ish type metal, I would check that band out. Anyone else got any?
I got a question for you, Nick and Josh. What is your? This is my question. What is your most memorable moment with Whitechapel on tour?
Juggalo party. Mayhem. Absolutely.
Oh. Okay, so about that, it's funny because I've been talking to Denise. Denise is one of our friends, but she's also somebody that made our "This Is Who We Are" DVD. But she was there at that show, and she actually sent me that photo. So let me try and find it in my phone, and I'll show you. I'll show you guys what I look like as.
Oh, don't worry, I got it.
Oh, here we go. I don't know if you can see this. Oh, it's so hard to get the lighting.
So much white on
There
your
it
face.
is.
There's the hatchet
it
man.
is.
That
Oh,
was
yeah.
that's me and our friend Denise at the Whitechapel Juggalo party on Mayhem Festival.
Are you Shaggy 2 Dope or Violent J there?
I'm like a hybrid of the
Okay.
two. I kind of like took what they did and like made it my own thing.
Nice.
somebody was
Tim,
asking
there's-
about. Somebody was asking about Tomfest.
That watermark. Oh, Tomfest. Gosh, yeah.
Was that
Remember that?
Portland? Where was
Yeah.
that?
It's in Oregon somewhere. It was like out in the middle of like the forest, kind of. It's pretty. Yeah, I mean we haven't really played a festival like that in a long time, but we have played some intimate shows still though. Even our first show back was actually at Soma's Side Stage in San Diego, which is like their smaller portion of that venue, and it was like I think it was like 550 people, something like that.
Yeah.
I would say our beard game on tour definitely takes a back seat. There's somebody was asking who grooms their beard more before a show, and to be honest, the aesthetics aren't looking too great when we're on tour. There's not really many clean showers or tight setups for that kind of thing. Good question though, because we all have beards.
Except for Nick.
Yeah.
And me. I don't have much.
Easy roast. Yeah, it's just like it's not in the genetic cards for me, guys, to grow sick facial hair. So yeah, what you see is what you get.
Dude, you had a sick stash at one point when you grew it out, I thought.
I was really trying. So guys, another thing we had queued up for the Q&A was we like have some of the stems from the sessions. I don't know, would anyone else be interested in hearing anything like that, or you guys just want to stick to a good old
And for anybody
conversation?
to explain what stems are for anybody who's not like recording inclined, it's just basically the individual instruments can be soloed out so everybody can hear. If you want to hear like Jordan's drums by themselves or Josh's sick bass tone, stuff like that.
Can you solo out Jordan's cymbals only?
Hi-hat.
Yeah, hi hat. and floor
Unfortunately,
tom.
we had to
Just kick
chill
two.
it out a little bit.
Hi-hat and kick two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had to chill
Hey,
out the
so-
session
so-
because there's like 80 tracks.
There's so many sick questions coming in the feed. I'm sorry if we don't get to them all. Tim, there's one for you that says, do you think it's worth it to sacrifice the correct pronunciation of lyrics for the sake of rhyme in a metal song?
I guess it's really kind of it depends on what fits the artist. You know, like I don't rhyme a whole lot. I mean, compared to like, you know, maybe more of the like new metal-y leaning towards bands and stuff. But so for me, that the rhyme is less important than the emotion of the song. But I do alter the way I pronounce things from time to time. I think it's fine.
Yeah. Hey, if it works, I feel like for all of us, we're like, does it sound good? You know, like, I don't know. That's the lead.
Yeah, it's on a case by case basis, but
Yeah.
but I think ultimately in the end, like if it's something you're proud of and you know, it makes a stronger statement, then do whatever you got to do.
Yeah. Another good question it's from Points of Conception. As a band of our own, we always struggle finding a good location for a video shooting. How did you guys go about that in the beginning of As I Lay Dying? You know, like I'd say 95% of the time, or the majority of the time, if you're somewhat established, you know, you're working with the director that has all that stuff ironed out, and they do the scouting. But like, we definitely understand what it's like to do a DIY type of video as well that we've done on our own, you know, with other projects and stuff like that. And my best like piece of advice there would just be to be as resourceful as humanly possible. You know, like you don't necessarily need to find like this epic expensive place. Like sometimes you just need the space to have a camera walk around you. You know, I think the Pantera video for it's 5 minutes alone or I'm broken, that they just have a trust that's going around in a circle. You know, like sometimes you just need a space and somebody to capture a video well and just have it edited. Like one of the most important things I think with a band starting out, trying to get like their identity established, is just to show people what you look like playing your song. So all you need is a room, some solid lighting, and that's it. That could be at your practice space, and it can be done creatively. You know. Anyways, hope that answers your question.
A lot of great things also start in the garage. You know, whether it's music or billion-dollar tech companies.
So there's a question, this is a little bit of a subject change, but between false chords and fry vocals, I don't actually know what either of those are like fully, but I just know that whatever the louder one is, I just like, I'm a full volume type person. So maybe somebody could teach me what that is.
Does it slap?
Is it lit? Would you say that it's lit or not?
Yes, Jordan does still put his clothes in oh no, he doesn't put his clothes in a drum cabinet. He puts it in like a sneaky closet in the bus usually.
Yeah, sneaky closet.
Yeah.
We sold that wardrobe case to Devil's Wear Prada.
Devil's Wear.
Just like a freaking just an old dude just slightly mispronouncing
You guys
something.
heard Devil's Wear Prada, man?
Yeah. Oh,
Full roast.
And then just to clarify from one of the other comments, somebody was asking about Jordan's live drums. He does not use triggers, actually. Not that we're opposed to the concept of triggers, just we don't use them.
He's too fast for them.
Yeah, they can't keep up.
he just hits too hard. Triggers can't contain it.
The technology doesn't exist yet.
What you guys have any weird pre-show rituals that you want to share? Ooh, ripping a Topo Cheeks, nice.
This is my sponsor.
Yeah, so good.
Pre-show ritual. Not really. Like 5 minutes of warm-ups.
I think you got Jordan and Nick probably had the most intense pre-show rituals.
Yeah.
Nothing
Just have
fancy. You know.
Yeah, just practice pads. That's about it.
How many Red Bulls do you consume before a show?
Yeah, at least one.
I saw.
I'd say average two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just try and stay, properly hydrated. Like I obsessively drink water. So it's usually drinking water, and then peeing because of it, and then just warming up a ton. So that's but I always feel like I have to practice and warm up at least an hour, just to feel like I put in that, like, it's more probably a mental thing as well, because there's been some times where I haven't warmed up and the show is just as good, but I just like, I guess for like confidence and playing, you just feel like, all right, I'm ready to do this.
Yeah. And sometimes if I warm up, usually I don't warm up like too much, but if I warm up a lot, I will mess up a lot during the show. So I think it really is just like where you're at mentally going into the show.
For sure.
Oh, shout out to somebody from Russia here who's asking what our impressions are of playing in Russia.
Amazing.
We love Russia. I think some of our favorite shows have been in Russia.
Yeah. Those last ones were crazy. Really nice venues too.
Yeah, super nice.
That was great.
And funny story about Russia, we were ordering food for dinner at the second show because we had to fly directly to the second show. And we misunderstood the menu and thought it was more of like an a la carte deal where you pick 5 separate things, but actually each of the things that we all ordered 5 of was a meal on its own. So we ordered 25 meals for the band for 5 people, but we ended up like eating them for dinner, lunch, and a snack. So we didn't waste the food, but I felt really lame in front of the promoter for that show because I think he just was like, man, these guys are prima donnas. They need 5 meals each.
We were paid.
Yeah.
Sorry. We were paid in that meal for the show.
Yeah.
I think we all felt so bad when we realized that instead of ordering like an appetizer and a salad, we ordered 5 separate meals, that we all tried our very best to eat all of them at once. So we like walked out of it. And when you walk out, you know, especially I think that was in Moscow, there were kids, you know, there were people out there waiting to like say what's up, and like, you know, usually the promoter's trying to just get us into the sprinter, you know, just for the sake of like, hey, you guys need to just get out of here. But we would try and say what's up. But if anyone was at that Moscow show, we were all just like absolutely stuffed and just like didn't even feel like walking because we'd eaten so much. But I think the general idea behind why we love Russia so much is the same reason why we love going to places like we were just in Southeast Asia, and you know, early fall last year we were in South America. But it's always good to go somewhere where you feel like people are like genuinely excited to just see you. Not that, you know, shows in the States people aren't pumped, but places where maybe we haven't gone as much, there's this newness to seeing us, say, you know, versus somebody in like San Diego who's seen us 10 times. And when you get that sort of enthusiasm and excitement from the people that you're performing for, it, like, you know, to just use like a cliche, it's like something you feed off of, and you're like, oh man, like this makes me even more pumped to be here. And that's definitely my experience with going to St. Petersburg and Moscow.
Yeah, it's refreshing.
For whoever's asking about playthrough of the songs from Nick and Phil, they're actually, if you go to our Instagram, they actually play through a lot of the parts of Torn Between on the most recent Instagram posts.
Josh got some bass in there too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we should. Yeah, if that's something you guys like, let us know. You know, we're at home right now. We would love to be playing for you guys like live, but if there's if there's songs or things that you guys want to see, or more ways that we can like just connect with you dudes and show you guys some like insight, just let us know in the chat.
Yep.
For sure.
So there's a comment that keeps going through about somebody asking if we use condoms on our gear, and I think that stems from that we sweat so much that sometimes in the past our sound guy used to wrap our in-ear packs with like latex essentially, or a condom. And so that's where that question comes from. We have not needed to do that because we just change our clothes more often now and don't sweat on the packs as often.
Well, you know, I think
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
That's why they're on the rider, totally.
No,
I think that guy was just going to keep asking until we answered, so I figured, you know, might as well address it.
well, there was a remember that Metal Injection came out, and we did like a day in the life on Mayhem, and we actually talked about that. We're like, here's some Jimmy hats, but we only use them for our wireless packs. But that was during a summer festival, and I think during the summer like especially on a hot summer like a summer tour like Mayhem, a lot of you guys are like dousing yourselves, you know, because it's just so hot. So I think it's not just the sweat; it's the like the cooling
Intentional
process.
water.
Yeah, the
Intentional
water
water
down. Yeah. What's up, Vlad Podorenko? Yeah. All right. So, let's see, Tim, how do you prepare to record vocals?
I would imagine it's pretty similar to Josh. Like you kind of get your voice in shape by doing a couple songs one day, giving your voice a rest, and then the next day try to build up to like 3 or 4 songs, and then rest. Try to build up to eventually being able to sing for like over an hour, kind of thing. Same as going on tour or recording. It's just got to get it in shape, and muscle you haven't used consistently. You got to like start easy and build your way up.
Yeah, I find like when we haven't practiced or we haven't been on tour in a while, when we do go into practice the first time, I will leave the first practice usually with like a really scratchy, hoarse voice. Then the second day it'll be a little less scratchy. Usually by the third or fourth day, it's like I can make it all the way through the set and I sound normal at the end. But it's definitely like something to work up to every single tour. It never really gets easier if you don't use it.
Yeah, let's see. Some people are coming on here late and have asked questions of the video again, and that's what I know we initially said, like, hey, we're going to talk about this, but I'm not going to read the whole thing again because it's nerve-wracking, but earlier after we watched the video, we just talked about the general premise that we had from the director, and the overall idea was that the concept was just like showcasing somebody wrestling with like controlling something that they can't, and fighting it versus letting go, and it's basically about surrender and sacrifice and acceptance, and that's what he tries to highlight. And so hopefully that makes sense to you guys. So yeah,
and I think to address kind of on the surface a little bit, like I won't go too deep, but some of the lyric questions, especially about the 2 different hearts kind of metaphor, the blue heart is kind of like the one that's public, that's like that's the heart you wear when you're out, if you're being a public figure or whatever, that the world is exposed to, so it gets bruised and it's just out there. And then the black heart is kind of like the secret dark heart each person kind of keeps to themselves, and it's talking about how if those are your only 2 choices, then it's just about starting over essentially and rebuilding.
Do you guys remember where in the writing process, like I know this was towards like the later half or batch of songs, but do you guys remember anything else of kind of when it came together?
I do. It was, well, you were talking about this, I think, on your Instagram post. You and I were on stage somewhere in Germany, and you were playing that clean kind of like pedaling intro riff, and it kind of reminded me almost like an arpeggiator, like a sequencer kind of sound. And instantly I was like, oh, that would be cool with like some vocals on it, but we didn't really work on it on tour. It was when we got back from the European tour of 2018, we were chilling in my garage, and this was one of the days that was just you and I kind of just screwing around in there. And I'm pretty sure the main riff and the verse and the chorus, along with that riff you already had, came together like in a couple of hours, and it was like, maybe even the whole song was I don't even remember, but I remember leaving that day with like at least 2/3 of the song done.
Yeah, basically the skeleton of the song was pretty much there, and then I don't think it was until in the studio. I know that's when the idea for the solo came about. I think that might have been an idea of Adam D's, because initially he wanted to cut the sort of melodic pre-chorus on the second time, and it was like, no, that's one of the best parts. And then it's always like, well, if we're going to keep it and there's not going to be vocals, let's try to add a solo. And I think that solo became one of my favorites on the record too, of Nick's.
Oh wait, you know what? Was that Blinded that he did that on? Or
I of those
oh
songs.
yeah. Yeah, Adam loves just cutting stuff out. Get it out of here. What's it? Is it serving
Yeah.
a purpose?
Don't bore us. Get to the chorus.
Yeah.
So now the initial reaction is, well, we're just gonna throw a solo over it,
Yeah.
and it works.
I think it's always good to have a fair amount of space between choruses. That is interesting. So yeah, I always back it. I mean, obviously, I love it. So, got a shout out from someone in Canada, guys. We really look forward to getting there at some point. We love Canada.
Yeah, we'll be there eventually. It's just got to take some time to do some paperwork and stuff like that.
Let's see.
This was a question from like a lot earlier. Josh was asking about the lyric. The usual approach that I'll have is I'll bring Josh like a bunch of ideas I have that could fit the chorus of that particular song. So in the case of like Torn Between, it's usually like 2 or 4 lines that I'll bring Josh and see what fits best with the melody he's been messing around with. And then once him and I have agreed on which lyrics he likes that I presented him there, then I'll write the rest of the song based off of that. So I actually don't really write the verses anymore now until the chorus has been agreed upon.
Yeah, and like it usually starts, it's kind of like this weird circular thing where usually if I do have an idea for how like a melody would go over a part, I'll send Tim a version with fake vocals or fake words first that usually are super embarrassing, but I find that if I use real words, it kind of almost influences the lyrics in a way, and it tells Tim like how many syllables would feel good, I guess, when he's writing. And for me, it just like makes sure that whatever I'm going to sing comes out kind of naturally, like with whatever the lyrics end up being.
What would you? Sorry.
Go for it, Nick.
Oh no, you can go for it.
The question, so who has peed themselves mid-song on stage? Anyone?
Is that something that people normally do?
The way Phil asks it though means that he's got a specific person that he's targeting and probably even looking at on this call.
Jordan does come off stage pretty soaked sometimes.
Someone
Anyway.
asked, are we going to play some more songs off of Shaped by Fire on the next tour? And first of all, we can't wait till touring is open again, and we have some dates next year. But I imagine that we'll try and touch on as many different songs as we can from the record. So if there's something that you want to hear in particular, let us know.
Yes. Somebody is asking.
And
sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I've seen this question a few times. If there's like a technique to expand your vocal range, for me, it really wasn't. There's no specific technique. It's just getting the proper warm up routine down. I think just naturally kind of stretches that muscle a little bit and gives you more control. And honestly, a lot of those high notes are just going for it, and it's probably not even done with great technique, but. Yeah, I would say, I've been to a few vocal coaches. I would say the most useful thing I learned was Melissa Cross, when I went to her, taught me to do this thing called singing above the pencil. So if you put like a pencil in front of your nose like that, and you imagine resonating the sound coming out of your mouth more in your nasal cavity, it sort of teaches you to not use the incorrect part of your voice when you're pushing for things like that. Or at least it did for me. But don't take my word for it. I would definitely ask a professional.
You should play a stem of your vocals, Josh.
Well, whenever we get to that part of the video, I'm down to start showing off some of the stems. I just didn't know if you guys were ready to do that or not.
I would be down. I mean, we have like 20 minutes or so left-ish, I think was the plan, but we were initially going to do this for an hour. But if you guys talking about vocals, if you just want to highlight some of I would be down to just hear isolated chorus vocals.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's a good
Actually,
start.
can you just sing it? Can you just sing it for us right now?
Yeah. Here we go. Just kidding. All right, guys. So there is going to be a slight delay here, just with all the technology stuff. This is me kind of trying to run this for the first time. So here goes nothing. And I will say before I play this, the vibe that I was kind of going for is like this song opens up a little more like in like a more rock kind of way than we're normally used to doing. So I figured it would be cool to kind of explore a 3-part harmony, which is not something I do a lot, but when you kind of have the studio and you have the time, you throw all the ideas at the wall. And I couldn't decide if I wanted the low harmony or a high harmony, so we ended up just going with both, I think. So anyway, here we go.
I feel torn between two hearts dying, but I'll trade them in for one. Broken and exposed, collapsing, so why would I hold on?
Nice. You guys hearing that?
Oh yeah. So there's just a little delay, but we just heard it. Sounds great.
Cool.
Still sounds good, Josh.
Yeah, those birds are definitely in the album too. No, I'm just kidding. Are those Jordan? Is that your feed, Jordan?
That's Jordan's front porch birds.
We thought it would add a nice vibe to the organic vibe to the chorus.
That's the trick. We have various sounds throughout the whole record blended in.
That was trash. Thanks, bro. I love public comment section.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that guy sing.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
All right. So, what else? Anybody else want to hear anything soloed out from the mix here? Like maybe Nick's solo, or I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Solo.
Solo.
All right. Let's see. All right. Solo stem. And go. Sick. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Nice. I'm not sure what the delay is, so can somebody give me a thumbs up if anybody's listening to the okay.
We're good.
Oh, that's what you do there. I'm just kidding.
Somebody's asking, or a lot of people seem to be asking for drugs.
Drugs?
Sickest part.
It didn't sound like he said drugs. I'm assuming he meant
The
drugs.
technology doesn't exist for us to email those yet.
Here you go. Drums.
Drums.
All right.
What drum part, Jordan? Anything in particular you want to show?
No, the particular. We just trying to think.
What I was thinking, Jordan, is we could do a before of just your groove on the bridge, and then we could groove out
actually,
the bass
maybe
and drums
the
together.
chorus. There's a lot of ghosties, in the chorus of this song.
Sure.
For each chorus, that change it up a little bit. I think it'd be cool to hear some of the differences in the ghosties on the choruses.
Cool. All right, so here we go.
If you guys want.
Nice.
Sweet.
That come through nice and clear, guys?
Yeah.
Somebody says, is this a normal amount of...
That was the first chorus?
The reverb, that's a kind of a section, like when we open up the sections like that, it sounds kind of ridiculous on its own. It sounds like you're playing in like a Coliseum. But in the mix, when there's like 10 tracks of guitars, a bunch of vocals, screaming, singing vocals, lead guitars, it's like actually pretty subtle, but it sounds pretty insane like that.
It's kind of like high end also. Like usually if something is EQ'd nicely on its own, it sounds pretty dark in a mix. So there's probably a lot more high end on individual instruments when you solo them out.
And this is not the fully mastered stems that Ted Jensen got, or the mastered track. So it's probably, the way things hit is a little different because there's not a master bus, but I do have a master limiter on there. But this is what I actually wanted to hear, because this is one of my favorite parts on the record. Let me see if I can find it. Where's the bass stem? There we go. Here we go. And go. Yeah.
Josh, the best part is that when you air bass with it, it's like out of sync because of the delay.
I'm like super uncoordinated.
Yeah.
Josh, did you slap?
No, that's not slap. That's just digging in with the pig, baby. Not that there's anything wrong with slap. I probably should have.
Josh, I don't even know if I previewed any of the vocals solo, but people are asking for some soloed screams. It's just probably one of the most awkward things to hear soloed.
All right, hey, give the people what they want.
Keep it short.
All right, let's see.
Just one word, one
Dang,
screen.
I made these so small I can't actually see which stem is. Oh, there we go, Tim stem. So.
Is there a section where I do a lot of words back to back?
Yeah, I was just going to go from the very beginning of the intro. How about this? I'll start like this.
I thought I was stuck between two worlds because I was not willing to
I don't think it's soloed though.
Yeah, those sound pretty gnarly.
Okay. The delay.
Sorry,
yeah.
It's like a pretty intense delay.
No, it's all good. I hear it now.
Sick.
I heard it. It's done.
Wait 1 sec. Josh, can you solo out the gang vocals that we were?
Let me see if I have those in. I think I put those onto Tim's stem. Like it's just all the screams and gangs were one, and then all the singing vocals were on one.
No worries.
One.
Just do drum and vocals.
I always lose track of where the gang vocals are.
Here's one thing, and I think that it's cool to talk about this because you don't usually get to see the stems like this, but a lot of times when in the heat of the moment during a mix, when you're like on a deadline, things that maybe you wanted a little louder on the record, you realize like 2 months later, like, dang, you can't really hear that thing I spent 3 hours on one day. So,
I actually don't know if everyone out there realizes that you and Joseph mixed this. I mean, obviously, like everyone was like involved. I know Phil went up there a ton, but just if everyone's wondering why we're like so familiar with that process, it's because this was a very hands-on band endeavor from start to finish with like Josh and his partner over at Sparrow Sound. being in charge of like the finishing details. There's some requests for some just straight up Scrosso riffing, and my favorite riff. There's a lot of great riffs in this song, but I love the pre-chorus riff. Like the chord movement, it just feels very musy to me, which I know is a band that we both love, or most of us really like. So can we do the pre-chorus riff, Josh?
And here we go.
Sweet.
Nice, yeah. It's cool to hear those harmonies like so bare like that, because there's such a wall of vocals in the part. It's kind of tough to pick it out, but it's nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, can you, for the next part, could you play when the bridge starts, on the ring out part, that little guitar melody? The little like noodle before the heavy part.
Let me find that.
That's just one little thing. I feel like it's that was originally supposed to be just a big ring out, and then kind of decided something should kind of fill the space to keep things busy. And that little melody, it's such a fun little noodle. I don't know. It's one of my more favorite parts of the songs for being such a minor part.
Okay, so I'm gonna play it and then solo out the noodle when it comes in, so people kind of know where we're at in the song. Okay, here we go. Nice,
yeah.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, we also, I remember on a lot of overdubs, we added the Phase 90 Eddie Van Halen pedal on a lot of those overdubs. So it kind of gave it that bubbly sort of chorus phaser kind of feel to it.
Moisture to the riff.
A little bit of moisture. Moist.
Bubbly moist.
Somebody asked a question about like the video again, and I know some of you guys have been on this chat from the beginning. We've talked about it multiple times, so I just rewrote what the director had sent us. It was for Firezaw. So I think the use of actors is more metaphorical, and him going through the computer was more about like, I think visiting a place in his past. But hopefully this like just conceptual synopsis helps answer that question for you. And then way earlier on, someone asked a question about, I can't even remember the gist of it, but they just asked about, how to get their band, how to grow their band, how to be a good band, how to be a little bit more successful. And I'm sure we have all of our, we probably have all of our perspectives that we can share on. But for me, I just think that like not allowing yourself to get hung up on like a magical formula. I don't think that like management or a label or like the right sort of networking, that's never just going to like get your band fans. That's it really is about just being as good of a band as you can possibly be, which is the very fundamentals. It's like writing great music, putting out good recordings, and playing good shows. And I feel like if that sort of thing is like honestly good, you are focusing on what you can control, And then all those other people, like agents, management, labels, they will come to you because they can see the potential in like elevating that, like that thing that you have. But if you don't have those things in general, then they don't really have any value either. That's just my take. I don't know if you guys have any other things that you would like to add or share or whatever.
No, I think that covers it for me.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Yes, people are still so people still don't understand the woman appearing at the end. And like, to be honest, I don't really get the exact meaning of it either. But I think what he was trying to show is that like this person had only existed in the past for so long, and it was something that he kept there. And her showing up at the end might be some sort of metaphor for taking that out of that thing. So it's like taking something that you held on to in the past and just letting it go. And I think maybe the idea of something being let go and her appearing in the present means that she can also walk away. That was my interpretation of it. So sorry, that doesn't really answer. I mean, dude, you're supposed to make your own interpretation. It's art.
All right.
Jordan pieced out again.
Oh, Jordan, his connection cut out. Yeah.
Oh, we got a shout out from Bulgaria.
Yeah, I'm back.
There's people who are asking. There's so many people from different countries here, and we're really like happy that you're here joining us. And I think the same answer applies to all of you guys, which is we really look forward to when touring is possible again. And when it is possible, like we want to go everywhere. We want to go to all those remote places, like, or places that we haven't been in, countries that we visited before, like North Spain, or parts of South America, countries of South America. Because I see someone here from Bolivia. I don't think we've ever played Bolivia. I mean, we'll go everywhere, anywhere that will have us, and that like asks us to come. So if you guys really want to see the band in your area, like, you should hit up your local promoters and ask them to work it out, and maybe we can route a tour there.
Whenever tours start happening again.
Yeah.
Hopefully sooner than later.
Hey, Josh, you want to play some guitar riffs or something?
Like me grab a guitar and just riff out for you guys?
Yes, yeah.
One thing I wanted to show was what I was talking about earlier is a lot of times there's stuff that doesn't come through on the mix that, you spend a ton of time. Even on records you end up spending months mixing, or in this case, it was a really rushed mix at the very end. Some things fall through the cracks that, you kind of want to be the revisionist history guy and go back and like remix it or something. But this section here, it's the intro production. I think we spent a lot of time getting this like arpeggiator and like synth stuff kind of adding to that digital feel towards the beginning of the song, and didn't really come through, so I was going to play that, solo it out. It might be a little quiet compared to what we've been listening to, but let's check it out.
Do it. That's so cool. I love that sound design that you did right there, Josh.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, obviously everything can't be heard, but that's one of the things when I listen to it so loud, I'm like, man, that's pretty sick. I wish it was just like 2 decibels louder in the final mix, but maybe it was, and got mastered down. I don't know, but sick. I wish it was just like 2 decibels louder in the final.
Sorry, that was my bad. I'm like streaming. I'm like doing the video call on my iPad, and then I'm like watching the stream on my computer, and I've been doing a pretty good job of like pushing mute and then like unmuting it here, but one of them slipped through the cracks.
I noticed we got a lot of people saying that we should do a video for the wreckage. Not to say that we necessarily have the budget to do that, but I did not expect that many comments for that song.
Yeah, me either. That's cool though.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's see. What else do we feel like is cool to respond to? Somebody asked us for a 45-minute set for a wedding. We would do that. Let's see. Man, a lot of love from people who support the band, and I just want to say that we appreciate everyone who's taken the opportunity to come to the space and just like engage with us in a positive way. That means a lot, and our focus will always be on those exchanges. So yeah, thank you guys for being here. And another good question is from Greg below: is everything done on Pro Tools? And I think that's a really good question, because I see a lot of dudes these days using Cubase and Logic, and I think we started learning recording because we all record and we all record ourselves. We all learned like back in the like early to mid 2000s. So yeah, we're all on Pro Tools here.
Also, Nick, fun fact: you would know Greg if you saw him. I know it's hard to recognize somebody just by their name, but if you saw Greg, he's done some of our shows in the past in Toronto as a promoter. Really tall guy, and
oh yeah, is he on here?
Yeah, that's whose question you just read.
Oh really?
Nice.
Yeah, at the Opera House.
Yeah.
Dude, Greg, what's up? Yeah, I love that guy.
People are asking for a screen. Tim, what do you think?
Just right now in my room.
Yeah.
Oh man, we already sold the vocal. I feel like it's pretty. I don't know. I feel naked just listening to myself.
Tab book for the record. In the last couple of days, that's interesting because at least like 3 or 4 people have asked me about that, and it's not something we had planned at this point, but if there was enough people interested, I definitely would be stoked to put one together.
Let's see. Oh, we had a couple gear. There's been a couple gear questions in here, and I guess if we're talking about Pro Tools and other pieces of gear, for my rig, like say touring, like I'm endorsed by Comparison Guitars, wearing their shirt. Love that guitar company. They make really sick stuff. So I use Comparisons live and in the studio, and then I basically just run a Shure wireless with a Kemper. I think we all have analog heads, and we love analog heads. And I know Phil, you've been doing some stuff with just your EVHs and stuff, but for my basic overall rig, no matter where we go, even in the States, it's a Comparison with Fishman pickups, DR strings, Shure wireless, and then into a Kemper with a custom tone that Josh actually, it's like our Shaped by Fire tone that Josh had made with, was it a 6505,
yeah.
Josh? Yeah, so that's my really basic setup. It changes from time to time, but that was the last thing that I toured with. And I don't know if you guys want to go into any of your like, sponsors or endorsers or just gear that you're playing.
I want to shout out Jason Braffett really quick. Just wanted to say, everybody check out Frost Coffin.
Oh, Jason is on here?
That's Jason Braffett, right? That's his last name?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jason Braffett 69.
Yeah, that's him.
He asked me to do a pig squeal. Believe it or not, I don't really know how to do a pig squeal.
Dude, you don't know how to do that?
All the years I've been doing this kind of vocal, I don't know if because anything that involves inhale screaming, I just never tried.
Yeah!
Yeah. Someone asked, what is the most difficult song to perform live from this album? I'd probably say that's Gatekeeper, or actually Redefined as a pretty nut-busting verse riff. But do you guys want to talk about your gear at all, Phil, or anything like that?
Yeah, I could. Because kind of just go through it real quick. I've been playing Charvel guitars for like 7 years. Fishman pickups, just like Nick. DR strings as well. Axe Effects 2 for all of my delays, effects. And then I'm using the EVH 5150 EL34 head through a Torpedo Live that has Mesa and a Diesel cabinet emulator, whatever you call it. And that's kind of been my go-to rig that I'll probably be using when we get back to touring at some point next year.
Shout out to Carlos. What up, dude? For my gear, I play Dingwall basses, the NG2 4-string, and the record is, I think, a combination between like some of the Dark Glass Neural DSP plugins and also the OG SansAmp plugin that comes with Pro Tools. And I think we might have used an old Axe Effects preset that was based on the Awakened bass tone, all blended together.
I think that like that Awakened process, like working with Bill Stevenson and Jason Livermore, I feel like that was when, you know, that was like that like bass tone moment for you, Josh.
Oh yeah.
I feel like you've always been like a tone daddy, but I think getting some of Bill's insight into, you know, how he builds a tone was when I just noticed. I'm like, man, Josh's stuff always sounds sick.
Well, like the conventional wisdom of I'm gonna change this real quick. There we go. I think like the conventional wisdom that I was always taught was like to not do a bunch of channels of the same thing because we didn't want it to have phase issues. But if you like are moving mics around and moving like the delay around between each of those tracks, if you do end up having any phase issues, you can kind of remove that. So I think there ended up being 5 or 6 channels of bass on Awakens and the Woven War record that Bill did. So it's like, I think you just kind of throw up all the mics and turn on all the signals and then just kind of experiment till the phase works together.
Hey, Jordan, what drums are you playing these days? Jordan?
I'm here.
He's not. That's the answer.
Refresh. I have to do a refresh. Yeah, right now, just using at least, well, the studio I used, my DW custom, and Zildjian cymbals. I use Remo heads in the studio. On tour, I use Evans heads. And on tour, I could, you know, have a couple different. Just got like one of the DW design series kits in Europe. Thing sounds amazing. Looking forward to playing that one again. And then I've been touring in the U.S. with a PDP concept, which sounds amazing. And yeah, and then still have my old the tried and true DW. I don't even know if you guys can see that, but that's the one that, you know, yeah, I've had it for, gosh, almost 10 years now, I think. Maybe more than that.
Jordan, would you mind playing something?
Yeah. That's
on your kit?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, but
no.
So blunt. No.
Yeah. No. Actually, I am working on a couple playthroughs right now. So, but it's actually just with the low volume stuff. So, like all the low volume cymbals and mesh heads on the drums, so they actually don't sound like, you know, normal. But yeah.
Hey, thanks Fires Off for from South Africa for sharing such like personal, you know, info about how much the band means to you. Like, can't tell you guys how much that means to us. You know, we put a lot into this band, and just to have it connect with people on like an emotional, like deep level is like everything to us. So that's really cool to hear. And yeah, we hope to get to South Africa. That would be amazing. So, and then Tim, do you have a favorite mic or a mic that you prefer to use?
So in the studio, I just use a Neumann handheld condenser. I don't actually handhold it, but it's a KMS 104. I think most screamers, for whatever reason, really like an SM7, and I've used it before. I don't mind it, but on my voice, that microphone works, and for whatever reason, whenever I like produce or have other vocalists come in the studio, it doesn't usually work on them, and it just each vocalist really should try like 4 or 5 mics and just see what works for them.
Hey Josh, what do you use for vocal mics?
Pretty much every song on Shaped by Fire is a Manly reference, which is my number 2 favorite mic. But My Own Grave, I actually used a Sony C800, which is like the Mac Daddy, kind of super bright but also smooth, and it's kind of really hard to find nowadays because I don't think they're making them right now. But yeah, I borrowed one from my studio partner for that song, and those 2 mics are really similar. And easy, DJ Lethal Jordan. I'm sorry.
Hey, to respond to Jeffrey 9087, should send your YouTube link and we'll check it out.
Sick. Well, guys, we initially had allotted a solid hour to do this exchange, but we've gone over a little bit, but that's cool. Do any of you guys want to add anything? I think we tried our best. Sometimes it's so hard to keep track of all these questions. Like the chat moves so quick. But is anything else you guys want to go over or say?
I'm good. This has been awesome. It's kind of like the first time experimenting with running a Pro Tools session and being the OBS commander over here. So hopefully it turned out okay. We're still working out the kinks, but hopefully do a lot more of these things coming up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Dude, Matty Gunner, it's been sick. I'm at 10th Planet Oceanside with Geo, and it's amazing. Can't wait to get back. Yeah, so guys, I think that's pretty much the sesh today. I mean, if you guys want to add anything else.
No, I echo what Josh said. I mean, we'll try to do these a little more often, and we'll try to come up with some interesting content. And if anybody asks questions here and we didn't get a chance to answer them, just come visit us again next time we do this.
Yeah. Or or even like if you like comment on something that we post, like maybe the next time we do this, and we'll know that in advance and we'll have a list, because this is my first time doing one of these things, and I thought like, oh yeah, we'll be able to look at a question and then take turns answering it. I didn't realize the chats move this quick, so that's cool. I'm stoked that so many people came on. This has been a really awesome way to like talk to you guys and like engage with you guys, since we're not able to go tour right now.
Yeah. And thanks to Nuclear Blast and Mike especially for setting us up with all of the Twitch stuff. It's been great.
Definitely.
Yeah. And to Josh for putting this all together and learning how to get this thing.
I wouldn't have been able to do it without Mike. It was a slow process, but yeah, stoked to do it more.
Well, keep up with the band's socials and everyone's individual socials, and we'll hopefully be back on here soon, everybody.
Sick.
Later, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
All right.
See ya.
Later.